Hi, Brian. Hi, Tim. Hi, Tasha. Who else did I not see yet? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Just have to figure out my camera right here for a moment with my new laptop. So if you give me a second there, Kim.
Yeah, I heard everybody's really happy to have the new laptops, but there's a couple of things to work out and bookmarks are gone, you know, all those crazy things.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to put the slide deck that I'll be using, the link in the chat. You know me, I will have an email for you as soon as we hang up with all of this information. But for now, I thought I would put it in the chat in case you want to follow along that way. And then I'll send something out as soon as we're done here. So good morning. Thank you so much for sharing part of your summer with me this morning. I've been able to do this in an hour and a half, so we may not be here the full 2 hours. I do want to make sure you have ample time to listen, to ask questions, and to feel very comfortable moving forward. So I will dive right in. And we'll do introductions in just a second, but if I don't stick to my slides, I don't always get everything in that I want to. Can you all see that? It says Curriculum Writers Workshop. Okay, perfect. So I really am excited about the opportunity to work with all of you. I have the wrong date on that slide, I'll fix it. But I wanted to start with the agenda. Sometimes when people enter into curriculum work, it feels very daunting. It feels like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm here to tell you that you can. It's not necessarily intuitive, but with a little bit of training and a lot of support, I think that you'll do great. We've had tremendous success the past 2 years. I think the writers would agree with me that we've had some fun, that they've done some tremendous work, and that it really will benefit the kids in the long run. Whenever we do curriculum review, it's not to fix anything that's wrong. It's not to say this is terrible and we have to move forward. But in the idea of continual improvement, it is important to take a look at our documents every couple of years to see if we need a new resource, to make sure we're standards aligned, because as you know, at both the national and the state level, standards change. 2013, we had PA core standards based on Common Core standards. We'll be looking at new science standards with NGSS. And so it is important to stay current with what's happening in terms of standards and expectations for kids and making sure that that translates well to curriculum documents. So this is the first of 3 summer workshops, although I may just be able to have this one since so many people were in attendance today. I want to show you the agenda. Everything that you would possibly need from me is linked in this document for today. And I started today's agenda with the whole crux of writing for 2021, 22. Then you'll see that we have all of our calendars, events. We have a link to each agenda. And I'll start to populate those as we go through this year. So if we're looking at today's agenda, I did welcome you. I do thank you. And if you don't mind, let's just do some quick introductions, just basically your name, what you teach, what grade levels, and how long you've been with Upper Perk. I would learn something from that as well. So I'm just going to go down the order that I see you on my screen. So Luke Verna, would you start, please?
Sure. I teach at the middle school, grades 6 through 8, computer technology, digital technology, and I think 25 years.
At Upper Perk?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Rich, I have you next.
Rich Cressley, technology education at the middle school, 3 years at Upper Perk. I've been in education 25, a combination of secondary English and tech ed.
Thanks. Stotts, I have you next.
Stotts at the middle school, phys ed teacher, 6th through 8th, and I just finished my 24th year.
It's amazing. Danielle Hawthorne, I have you next.
Hey, sorry, I'm getting my video situation
No
fixed,
worries.
but, Danielle Hawthorne, high school English, 14 years.
Wow.
I
Tim
forget one.
Herbert. Yeah, Tim, you're next.
Yes. Hi. Again, I'm in Danielle's situation as well, as you know. So yeah, I'm high school English. I teach 12th and 11th grade. I've been at at Upper Perk at the high school specifically for 16 and a half years.
Wow.
And I guess it's the fourth time I've gone through a curriculum review as well. So
That's always fun. Yeah.
there you go. So
Thanks, Tim.
thanks.
Jill, I have you next.
Hi, I'm Jill Smurden. I teach 8th grade English for one period at the middle school, and the rest of the day I help the English language learners, elementary, middle school, and at the high school. I just finished my first year in Upper Perk, but it's my 21st year in education.
Great. Thank you. Deb, I have you next.
I apologize if you hear a train in the background. I live near a train track. Deb Majaj, Upper Perk Middle School, health education, and 20 years at Upper Perk.
Excellent. Alicia, I have you next.
I'm Alicia. I teach 9th grade English, 11th grade English, and musical theater. This is my 14th year.
Great. Blake, I have you next.
Hi, Blake Bardman. I teach at the high school. I'm technology education, and I am grades 9 through 12, and this is just finished my 7th year at Upper Perk.
Nice. Good. Tasha?
Tasha Rushatz. I'm feeling really old here this morning, as I think I'm probably the longest employee here with 27 years. I teach 10th grade English and am recently dipping my toe in the 12th grade English curriculum as well.
Great. 27. Wow, that's awesome, Tasha. You don't look it. There's no way that's true.
All right, there might be something wrong with my camera, but thank you.
John, I have you next.
John Bertain. I think I just finished. I'm a health and phys ed at the middle school right now, but I have taught in every building in the district. In my 22 years at Upper Perk, 27 overall.
Wow. There you go, Tasha.
John, you definitely don't look it.
Okay, thank you. Brian, you're next.
Hi, I'm Brian Hansley. I teach high school English, and I just finished year 5 at Upper Perk.
Did I get Dan?
Dan Moyer, Upper Perk High School Tech Ed. This is, I believe, my 15th or 16th year in the district and 21 total.
Very nice. Well, for those of you who are wondering, I'm just about to start my 3rd year in the district. It's been interesting. The 2 years I've been here have been COVID related. I taught for 12 years at Nazareth High School. I taught social studies, just about every subject that you can think of: psych, economics, government, history, world history, American history. Spent 3 years at North Penn as a curriculum supervisor, 6 at Springford, 3 of which, or actually 2 of which were assistant director, and then 4 as director of curriculum. And I'm really excited to be here. I feel like I found my home. Most people, when they come to Upper Perk, say that. And I really feel like that's true for me. So thank you guys. Did I miss anybody? Okay. So we did welcome and introductions. I thank you for that. I want to go back to the presentation. Can you see that? Are we on the agenda page again? Okay, thank you. So am I ready? Will I finish? I do have kind of a GPS that's going to get us there. If you feel like you get in your car and you don't know exactly where you're going and you hit your location, and that's going to get you all the way to the end, we will be using kind of a GPS document as we roll forward, so that you'll know you're on track, you're on the right trajectory, and you'll be able to kind of follow along and make sure you're hitting deadlines. And honestly, guys, the only reason I have a deadline is for you. Most people are like, Kim, if you don't tell me when it's due, I won't get it done. And so we do have deadlines in there. I don't want to say they're soft so you can slack, but I do think that there are sometimes circumstances that arise. So if we can do our best to hit our deadlines, we're going to finish on time and feel very comfortable with the products that we're working through and on, and they will definitely benefit kids. So we'll be talking about the handbook today. We'll be talking about learning and what does learning look like. I'll walk you through understanding by design, stage 1. I'll show you some templates. We'll outline next steps, and then we'll do a Q&A session. Listen, I think it's great that one of you mentioned how many times you've done curriculum review, and I appreciate that. So your experience will definitely be extremely helpful in the process. I would also tell you, though, that I may come at it a different way than other people. I've been accused of being a control freak or micromanaging, and I don't want to do that work for you, but I do want you to feel supported. I want you to be able to do curriculum review, whether or not I am in the room, whether or not I am in the picture. I want to be able to build your capacity to do this well and feel very, very comfortable so that you can continue that learning with your colleagues. You can comfortably share the products that you've made. And so there will be an awful lot of training involved and some check-ins just to make sure we're on the same page, and what we're creating for students is exactly what we need to based on the latest standards and what we know about teaching and learning. So today's a day to get ready and stay ready. There are a few things that I will be asking you to do, and they will appear in the follow-up email that I send to you. And the first one will be, if you have not signed and returned the contract, I would like you to do that. What I will put in the email is I will send you the actual board approval so that you can see exactly what you were set up for and the cost for that. So I'll email the board approval. I'm making a note for myself right now, and a link to this contract. So if you have not yet sent it back, please do. It does require a principal signature. So you can route it through your principal. You can put it in a Google Doc. I think I did send it as a Google Doc. And then they can sign it and send it to me, and then we'll be in good shape. I'll bother you for that until I have them all, because it is something that we do go into contractually, and so that we can all be paid on the tail end, we want to make sure that's done correctly and well. So that will appear in the email that I send to you. I'd love.
I don't know if I'm speaking for others or just myself, but I don't really remember if I did that or not. Do you have a list of people who did or didn't?
Yes, I will do that, Tasha. That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. The other thing I would love for you to do is put your dates on the calendar. One of the things that we do have, again, on the agenda, if you page up a little bit, I've outlined, and you should see my calendar for next year already. It's very important to me that we are proactive, that we have dates ahead of time, that if we have an emergency, we've got a date ready to tackle it right away. And so we don't have to be too worried about when the next meeting is or what we have to do. So all of the dates are here. I did send you invites. Some of you tentatively accepted, some of you definitely accepted. I think the ones that you declined were the summer ones. So it will be important for you to continue your learning and check-ins and stay on track. So if you have these dates on your calendar and you've accepted those invitations, you'll be in good shape to get ready and stay ready for what lies ahead. You've got to ask questions. This is not an intuitive process. I don't think. Some people are natural and get it and it's no problem. So definitely ask questions and definitely pace yourself. I think some of you are working together, which is awesome, because then you have the opportunity to collaborate and to check your thinking and make sure that what you're doing seems to make sense outside of the world in which you live. If you're not working with a partner, there'll be time throughout the school year where you can start to show your colleagues what you've been doing and get their input and get their feedback as it progresses, so that when we roll this out in May during an in-service, and we will, it's not a big surprise to anyone. They've kind of seen what's coming, and we're aware of what things will look like for next year. In many cases, guys, it's just a refresh. It's not a huge, tremendous change, but there will be some things that people need to attend to as we implement. Okay, so the dates are listed there as well for you. The other thing that we don't have on the calendar are those one-to-one check-ins. One of the other things I'll be asking you to do when you get your schedule, so I'm planting this seed, but in September, I'll bring it up to you again. It's helpful for me to know when you're free, so that if we need to do a check-in, if you send me an email and say, Kim, I really want to check in, I can go right to when I know you're free, look on my calendar and send an invite from there. So you don't have to do that now. Many of you don't have your schedules, but in September, that's one of the things that we'll do at that meeting is you'll send me when you're time is that we can meet during the school day. That saves you time waiting after school. If you'd rather do it after school, I'm happy to do that as well. But we'll take a look at what your schedule is, and so we can easily do those one-to-one check-ins. And in a situation like this where we have everybody, it's about training. Some of our check-ins will be an opportunity for me to kind of go around the room and see how you're doing, look at some of your work. But by and large, the best progress we make is one-on-one in those meetings when we're doing a specific look at your documents and how to improve them and to really celebrate the work that you've done well. Whoops. Okay, we do have a curriculum review cycle. Andrea and Allie put this into effect even before I got here. This is something that's necessary, but you also know that it's really difficult sometimes to adhere to a curriculum review cycle like this, because just imagine if I was doing K to 12 English this year. That would be crazy for them, and that would be crazy for me. So this is kind of loosely how we go through curriculum review and how we know when to purchase new materials. Curriculum review doesn't always mean a purchase of new materials, but often it does. So the other thing that's linked on that slide is your curriculum development handbook. This is just informational. Again, I think Dr. Farina is really known for her handbooks, and this is a good one. I've updated it, and I did update it for summer 2021 with this year's dates, but it really does set the entire tone for why we do curriculum review, why it matters. We're preparing our students for career and college readiness. It walks you through the documents and the process for each stage, who has what roles and responsibilities. And then additionally, it has some information about understanding by design, which we'll look at today. And so that's there for your review as well, for anything that you might need to know or other questions that you have. Everything is in that handbook. Whoops, that's the wrong way. So step one, really what we try to do, and it doesn't always happen because we're in flux with different grade levels and trying to accomplish all of the curriculum review in 1 year. It's a difficult thing to do. So when you talk about the first thing that we do is curriculum review, we do some research. We look at best practices. Some of you engaged in this on May 18th to set the tone for moving forward. What do we know is going well at other school districts? What are some things that we know might have changed in the job world, in the world of career and work, so that we can integrate that into our programs K to 12 and make sure our students are as ready as they can be when they exit our school system and go on to directly to career, to the military, to college, to a trade school, to whatever it is. When we start this school year, we'll be doing some information on how do we, even in the lower grades, get our kids ready for what comes after school. How can we help them figure out what their passions are? How do we help ignite that and kind of spark some interest into what they might want to do later on in life? It's always about preparing for the next thing and really growing them while we have them. And so stage 2 is really where we're going to focus our energies this year. We will be looking at creating and designing curriculum maps while looking back at some of the things we discovered in research. We may find as we're building our curriculum, we need to do a little bit more research. We want to talk to some other schools. We want to maybe go and visit somewhere, which is certainly an option. You guys just have to let me know if you have a desire to do that. A lot of times with tech ed and business and art and music and FCS, it is a nice thing to go on a different site visit. So do keep that in mind if it's something that you decide would be helpful for either you as a person and a curriculum writer or for your entire department, as we think about in this process, not only rewriting the courses we've been assigned to, but what else do we need to bring to the English department or to the tech ed department at Upper Perk to give students greater choice and greater preparation for what comes after high school. Okay. And again, all of this, step 1, step 2, that's all included in the curriculum handbook. So today and this year, we're really going to focus on course outlines as you look at year 2 on the right-hand side, course outlines, unit plans, and assessments. 2 kind of tidying up tasks that we'll do is we'll take our documents that we've created, transfer them into BYOC, which is Build Your Own Curriculum. That's a district-run database of all the curriculum. I just think sometimes it's easier to build in Google and then upload it there because we can play around and make sure everything looks the way that we want it to, and then we can transfer everything over when we're done. For our secondary core courses, we'll actually be looking at the Edgenuity courses that we run for our students and just making sure that if they take an Edgenuity course, it now aligns with what we've changed in our UPSD courses. If we have to look at resources, we will use a rubric that will help us do that. We generally look to purchase and approve, I should say approve new resources in February or March. So if you are someone who's saying yes, as a part of the work that we're doing this year, we definitely need a new textbook, or we definitely need some new resources and materials, tech ed, I'm thinking, Luke, I'm thinking, then this is when we want to be making those decisions and putting them on the board agenda for approval, February or March. So be thinking about that. So we talked a little bit about what we can do in concert with our department and grade level peers. I'm not going to ask you to do this because you did some of this work on May 18th already, but be aware of the fact that the more you can communicate with your department this year as you're doing the work, I think the better prepared they will be and you will be for rollout in May and full implementation in the fall. And that's the expectation. Whatever we do this year will be fully implemented in the fall. All right, before I go any further, any questions? I can only see a couple of you on my screen, so shout out, raise your hand, whatever you need to do before I roll forward. Okay. So I'm going to begin the presentation about writing curriculum and thinking about our students. And the first question I would like you to answer for me, you can jot it down on a piece of paper. I would certainly ask you to write it in the chat if you're comfortable doing that. And I'll take a couple of answers orally after I've given you a chance to think about this question. When you're working with students in your classroom, how do you know learning has occurred? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you observe? How do you know learning has occurred? So jot down a couple of answers to that, either in the chat or in front of you somewhere, and then I'll ask for some to share out loud as I look at the chat here as well. How do you know learning has occurred? When mistakes have been corrected. Yes, Luke, not even by the teacher, right? By the student. You might have pointed something out and they make that correction. Oh, Jill, that's perfect. When they can explain something in their own words, that is critical. When they demonstrate knowledge and mastery, absolutely. Sometimes showing it to other students, absolutely. Formative feedback, discussion, student questions. Yeah, they can extend their answers. They can make a connection to something you taught last year, last week, absolutely. Students can demonstrate the skills taught, absolutely. Demonstrate. When students are able to help other students, that's exactly right. You know as well as I do, when you teach something, you remember it so much better. So if we get the kids to the point where they're teaching or showing or demonstrating for others, they've definitely got it. When they're able to do it, observing that they can demonstrate, absolutely. The robots work, right, that they've programmed. They can show they've used the information. They ask questions and seek to understand, absolutely. You guys have identified a ton of excellent ways to know learning has occurred. Anybody want to add one? Unmute and say one more that we didn't read in the chat. So what's really interesting to me is you guys have used a lot of verbs in your answers. So they're able to explain, they're able to demonstrate. None of you really said they get a good grade on a test, although I know that also is good evidence. But what you've really identified here is that learning is deeper than just being able to spit something back out on a test. Learning is deeper than that because what you've said in your answers is they've taken in what you've talked about, they've processed it a little bit, and they've done something with it. They are actually doing something with the learning that has occurred. They're extending it by asking further questions. They're demonstrating it by showing that they can do what you've shown them or taught them. They're using their own words. Some of the ways I always, when I was a classroom teacher, would be able to tell if they've learned, if they could give an original example. Everybody can give the example that's in the book, but can you give an original example? And I thought that was really helpful. One of the other ways, I was mentioning this to somebody the other day, when we did the Supreme Court unit in high school government, oh my gosh, it was so much vocabulary. And rather than have them write their definitions, I would say to them, give me an antonym. A kid can really truly demonstrate that they understand what a word means if they can give you the opposite of it. And so sometimes just doing some of those different things, playing around with how they can work with that knowledge in their brain and spit something out is really important to understand. It's not about that fragile learning. I tell the story all the time. When I was in high school and middle school, probably whenever it was test day, I would walk into the classroom and I'd be like, nobody talk to me. And I would like sit here with my head down. And I would kind of block my ears because I thought if anybody interrupts me, I'm going to forget everything I memorized last night. So I have to kind of keep it all clutched up in here. Then the test would come, I'd spit it all out and I'd be like, whew. And then I was okay, but I don't know how much of that I remembered the next time around or for the next unit or foundationally. So when you think about learning, it is deeper, and all of you in your answers demonstrated that. And I appreciate that tremendously. That'll help as we start to capture some of that in our work with curriculum writing. So if you think about the things that go into learning and effective instruction, you think about curriculum, which is what we're here to talk about, instruction, which is what you do as a teacher, assessment of instruction and curriculum, and then how we manage our classes. Really think about those 4 pillars, and that's what makes effective instruction. I'm going to challenge your thinking a little bit. So take a look at those columns there. And tell me what's different with this model. Just a couple of things that you notice and wonder. So there's the pillars as we have them. And then we have this. What's different about this versus the first one that I showed you? You can just shout out what you see that's different. SEL, yes, Jill. Definitely SEL is included in that one. Assessment comes earlier. Good, Rich. You're the star of the show so far. Anything else that you notice?
Community involvement.
Love it. I have to tell you, that is the #1 thing that I noticed here at Upper Perkiomen. This community is incredibly invested in student learning, in engaging students. The Chamber of Commerce is unlike any I've ever seen. And trying to partner with you, even at the middle school and definitely at the high school level, to give kids rich experiences with local businesses. I think that that's tremendous. So yes, community involvement. I want to talk a little bit more about what Rich identified. So when you talk about in the previous slide, oops, it was curriculum, instruction, assessment, and management. And when you take a look at how we've kind of refocused this in a maybe a little more student-focused order, it's about what do we want them to know, do, and understand in the curriculum? How do we know maybe what they already know or where their needs are? Instruction and management. So sometimes when we flip and do some type of assessment earlier in a unit and or ahead of a unit in terms of a pretest, we can get a really good idea of how best to instruct. And so when we think about that and we change it in that student-focused order, we're more likely to have the students retain and learn in the long term. And so you'll see this model a lot as we do our work. You'll see this model a lot when you're working with principals, because I have to tell you something, and maybe you are probably familiar with this and or currently experiencing it. Sometimes in education, it feels like we've got 75 initiatives and they're all just thrown on the table and we say to teachers, work that out. Good luck with that. These are all the things we need to have happen, without maybe giving you context for why we have to do particular things and how they all integrate and fit together. I would actually challenge you to think about the initiatives going on at Upper Perk, district-wide, building-wide. And if they don't fit somewhere in here, we shouldn't be doing it. And you should be able to say, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with what our goals are. And so therefore, I don't really feel like we should invest time in it. And so as you think about that, and you try to put everything together and, oh, this is why we're here. The pinnacle, guys, is student learning. It's student learning. What does a portrait of a graduate look like? That trickles all the way down to our kindergartners and some things that we do for pre-K. So if the pinnacle is student learning and the portrait of a successful graduate, and we know our community is involved and we know we have a strong foundation for learning, all of those pieces work together with our curriculum instruction, curriculum assessment instruction. And of course, if there's no class management, there's no learning going on. And so all of these things will work together as we target professional development for you as curriculum writers and the community at large, which is all of our K-12 teachers. We really are focusing in on areas where we feel as though will make the biggest impact for student learners in terms of growth and achievement. What's nice too is when you have very clear curriculum documents and very standards aligned appropriate assessments, you get to spend the time focused on instruction, and that's where we make gains with kids. And so our goal is to really get that curriculum written well with the integrated assessments so that we can focus our time on what does instruction look like. You can be the best teacher out there, and many of you I know are, but I know that when we're talking about instruction, we can always go good to great and great to better. There's got to be a kid in your experience that you have not been able to reach or help for whatever reason. And those are the ones we want to continue to target. And those are the ones we want to build tools and capacity in teachers to be able to say, I know I can be successful with this student because I tried all these things and this will work. And so we want to build your toolbox. We want to build your confidence. We want to learn from each other because we have great things going on. And so that's kind of our foundation for learning. That's critically important as we start to engage in curriculum work because that's the number one pillar. Without clear curriculum, none of this is possible. And so that's our goal this year. So how do we plan for student learning? It doesn't just happen by accident. Sometimes it does because we've got students like that. But for deep learning and processing of information, we have to plan by design. And what that means is we use a format called understanding by design. Again, not by chance. So here's our target. We want kids to be efficient learners. We want kids to be deep learners. We want kids to be able to apply their knowledge. We want that to be student learning, focus of an upper perk graduate. And to do that, we really have to work toward genuine understanding, not simple knowledge, not like Kim would go into her test and be like, don't talk to me, because that was so just on the surface. There wasn't any deep learning going on. So when we talk about transfer of learning and long-term retention, planning is the key for that. And that's what we'll focus on a lot. According to Wiggins and McTighe, who wrote the whole process of understanding by design, it's accomplished through 3 stages. It's backward design. One is identifying desired results. This is what we're going to look at today. What do we want students to listen, know, do, and understand? That's it. What do we want students to know? That's the content. Those are our standards. Do, those are the actions and the skills, again, related to standards, and understand the big picture. I have to tell you that what we know about the research and how kids learn is the why is critical for their deep learning and understanding. If we don't understand why we're learning this, it doesn't make sense to us, which is why probably I'm overdoing that end of it. I'm giving you so much context so that you understand this process and the importance of it and why we need to attend to all of these different details. So stage 1, what should students know, do, and understand? Understand is the key. The next stage is, how do we know they got there? What evidence will we accept that they know it, can do it, and understand it? Many of you already identified it's by demonstration, it's by teaching, it's by providing an original example. We talked about a bunch of those things. So think about a bridge. So here's know, do, understand. Here's I know they got there. What you do as teachers is you build a bridge between those 2 very important factors. What do I want them to know, do, and understand? How do I know they got there? That bridge is stage 3. And really that's strategically planning learning activities to ensure that when they get to the assessment, they're going to be successful and they're going to remember this information long-term. That's a big task. We work on that over years and years, mainly through professional development, once we're able to talk about instructional practice that will help understanding by design. So we're going to dive into stage 1, know, do, understand, in a little bit more detail. So what students need to know, do, and understand as a result of this unit of study. So generally, and I do have secondary folks here, so it's a little bit easier for me to say, we basically work through units of study in 6 through 12. So it's this unit, it's that unit, it's that unit. So when I'm done with this unit, what's the outcome? What do I really want students to know, do, and understand as a result of this unit? And one of the ways that you can be successful in long-term retention is to start with essential questions, that's EQ, or EU, that's enduring understandings, and I'll go through those on the next slides. So you can start with the question or the answer, and then you build from there. This is where we get kids to kind of be curious. It's where we set the context and give them the why you have to know this. Then we can look at what are we going to title this unit and identify the targeted standards. And then from there, build downwards from content and skills. So I'm going to ask you to hang with me a little bit as we talk about all of these things, and then I'll apply it to the template, and hopefully it will make sense to you. But the bottom line for stage 1 is, what do we need students to know, do, and understand? Here's the template that we're going to work with. I have this again. It's not linked in this presentation, I don't think, but it'll be part of what I give you after this. So this is what we'll be working with in Google. We will have our unit titles across the top, and then down the left-hand side, we'll have the components of understanding by design that we know are true for a particular unit of study in the course that you're writing for. So what I said on the last slide is I would start with essential questions or enduring understandings, because it's going to set your tone for why in the world I'm teaching this. Why is it important for kids to know this? It's not always easy to get to the bottom of that. And so in the previous slide, I talked about the order in which I would attack this. I would start with essential questions, enduring understandings. Then I would go to the standards. Then I would go to content and skills. So we'll work on this together. That's why these independent checks are so important, so that you understand what they are, how they work to build student learning and deep understanding. So let's start with explaining one of them. So essential questions are, guys, it's really the who cares, right? So it's answering what type of a question could I ask a student at the beginning of the unit that's going to make them curious about what's to come? It should promote some creative thinking, some critical thinking. It should assist in learning transfer. It really is, why in the world are we studying this unit? So what I would say to you is that an essential question generally starts with a how or a why. It's not easily answerable. It doesn't have one answer. It can't have one answer. The point of an essential question is, as you go through the unit, they're able to deepen their answer. They're able to make an answer or create an answer or share an answer that's much more sophisticated based on what they've now learned. And so it is really a provocative, an arguable question, and it's designed to guide inquiry into the enduring understandings. By actively exploring that essential question, students develop and deepen their understanding. So let me ask you a couple of questions, and you can put in the chat whether you think it's yes, essential, or no, not essential. So is the following question an essential question? What were the 3 causes of World War I? Yes or no, essential? I'm going to pick on somebody random. John, why is it not essential?
Because there's not a lot of thought involved. You're just basically regurgitating information.
Yep, exactly. There is a right answer. I can tell you those causes. They might be a little arguable, but it's just a easily answerable question. How about this one? What is art? Is what is art an essential question or not? Yes. Blake, talk to me about why that is essential.
So I feel that would be an essential question, because each learner, each student could have a different outlook on it. So some students could say that ceramics is essential to art, and then they could back up their opinion. Some kids could say that painting is an essential part of art, and then they could give a description. So they're all going to have a different answer as to maybe their skill set. And so you'd get a lot of different different backgrounds for that student.
Yeah, and as you go through a unit or even probably the whole course, that might be an essential question for an art course. They get to build their answer based on what they learn about art and expressionism and color and line and form and texture and all of those things. Because it started with the word what, I was hoping to throw some of you off. You can have an essential question that starts with what, but it's basically really a big, broad question like, what is art? That's very arguable. It's very provocative. It will ask, students are going to have an opinion about that. And then as they dive into the inquiry, it's either going to be affirmed or deepened or turned upside down. And so that is an essential question. Let me ask you if you guys can think of essential questions for units that you teach right now, for things that you have going in class. So you can either write it in the chat or say it out loud. But let's just, and I'm not picking on anybody, it's a safe environment to get it wrong. But can you think of an essential question that you've been using that you really like? I'll give you one more while you're thinking. Why is nutrition important for lifelong health? Why is nutrition important for lifelong health? Well, listen, kids are going to have a whole lot of different answers in there. And I'm getting a lot of, I think you can only direct message me through chat. You can't see it. I guess I set it up that way. I didn't do it on purpose. So that's okay if you're just messaging me. I'll read them all out loud.
Okay, thanks. I didn't know if that was
No,
to
that's
everyone,
fine.
So
I didn't
I'm
realize
still
that.
having trouble with my camera here, so obviously, and it's not even turning on. I've gone through every setting here, so
That's all right. I know you're there.
Yeah.
Good. How does participating in basketball help with fitness? Absolutely. Substitute volleyball, substitute any of those things. Ooh, is it necessary to challenge government? I love that question. Alicia, that's one of those questions like that really is going to set kids going, because listen, if you've all teach middle school and high school, you know, they have opinions, right? Like kids have opinions like there's no tomorrow. But what we don't often have is a lot of evidence to support their opinion. And so that's kind of where this comes from. You can ask that arguable, provocative question, but you need for them to supply you evidence of your answer. And Blake, that's what I liked about your reply to me was they have to back it up. They have to have evidence to back it up. Why is the design thinking process important for all aspects of life? Dan, that's good. In fact, I would say, because Blake or Rich, you wrote, what is design? Absolutely. We might get broader thinking and broader questions of why do we use the design process? Why is it important to do that? And you can, you know, kids might have an answer like, well, trial and error helps you perfect a product. Oh my gosh, look at that. I just came up with an enduring understanding. I want you to see how that worked. Why is the design thinking process important for all aspects of life? I'm just going to transition real quickly. We'll come back to essential questions, but when you're talking about an enduring understanding, it answers that question. So if you posed a question, write your answer in the chat and see if you can kind of make it a big, broad answer, because that's really how these two things play together to guide inquiry into your unit. So why is the design thinking process important for all aspects of life? Design thinking allows trial and error to improve a product, allows for us to learn from our mistakes to improve the outcome. Anything like that, then kids are like, oh, well, that's why I have to learn this. I hate this design process. Oh, but it's important because. How do literary devices contribute to our enjoyment and understanding of reading a text? A+, that's beautiful. And listen, Jill, we could switch that. That was Jill Smurden. We could switch that to say why. So even when you're looking at your essential questions, simply shifting from a how to a why, and I'd play with that a little bit as you're doing your work, that may actually get you to a place where you really want kids to go versus a how. So those are two really good question starters, and really think about which one you might want to use. Can knowledge like power be abused? Oh, Alicia, I get chills when I read those. That's awesome. So that would be an essential question for a unit on maybe the foundations of government, or and I like your questions. What I would say to you is most times when we're doing essential questions and enduring understandings, listen carefully, English folks. We could do big, broad, like, why are we here questions? And that's what I love about Alicia's, but the answer somehow with an essential question, this applies to everybody, but I'm saying it to English because sometimes that's the hardest one. We need to be rooted in where we're going. So we need to be rooted in the standard. So big essential questions are good, but you want to be able to tie it to a standard, to tie it to text, to tie it to author, to tie it to analysis of text. So Jill's was, how do literary devices contribute to our enjoyment and understanding of reading a text? It could even, we could incorporate a little bit more standards language in there too, because we want to anchor it in what we're going to be doing with our text that we'll be working with in English. So I love your questions. We would just need to make sure, Alicia, that when we answer them, there's a little bit of connection to text or author.
So could that continue if we are doing Animal Farm and then we just say how rhetoric is used within, that would be the essential question, where the enduring understanding would be the broader topic, and then the essential question would break down how we achieve that?
Yes. So again, I just got chills. Say again what you said about if it was Animal Farm, how you would switch that to be like Animal Farm. How does rhetoric you started with?
So in Animal Farm, if I ask that question of can knowledge like power be abused, the essential question would then be attached to creating rhetoric in your writing, or how authors use rhetoric to abuse their power.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And so what you've done there is you've encapsulated likely the theme of your unit. You're guiding inquiry into it with a really good question. Kids are like, ooh, abusing power. That sounds, you know what I mean? Like some of our teachers that I've worked with in Nazareth, North Penn, Springford, gifted at this. And I hear some of you very gifted with this because we want it to be a question kids want to answer, right? Like in kindergarten, I was doing this with kindergarten teachers, and the question was, why do we have rules? And I thought, oh my gosh, you could use that in high school too, because that's such a big, broad question. And it's really important, way important in kindergarten, because kids are coming from environments where there aren't as rules like we have in school. Let me just catch a couple more here. Sorry. Yes. How does the design thinking process affect the way people and teams solve problems? Love it. Rich, if you flip that to why does it, that would be another good essential question. Depending on what you really want the kids to get out of it and how you're going to answer that, play with that how and why. How can good choices affect health? Absolutely. How can our understanding of other cultures benefit us in the workplace? Beautiful. So Tasha, if you were going to use that in an English course, it would be something tied to author or text. How does the author, or the answer could be, you know, symbolism in text helps us understand other cultures and getting along in other societies, something like that. Why is narrative voice important for understanding the meaning of literary work? Absolutely. How do we utilize our understanding of argumentation and persuasive techniques to support arguments in a way that's not only ethical and just, but also effective? Beautiful. And so Stotts, your answer was fitness impacts your health and body image. Absolutely. So that's the answer to the essential question that gets us to move forward. What role does empathy play in defining a problem? Love it. Good. So Jill's question about literary devices was answered with literary devices help readers connect to and make personal connections with the text. That's like a textbook essential question, enduring understanding. Just beautiful. Narrative voice point of view shows how the author uses ambiguity to express complex ideas. That's beautiful. You guys are really good at this. Danielle, yours are a little wordy, Danielle, I would agree, but you have the right idea. It's just about how do I make it student friendly then? They're beautiful. They're excellent. Okay, good. So your checklist for essential questions, which I really feel like reading those out loud and hearing from you might have helped clarify your own understanding. But if you write a question and you're not sure it's essential, use this checklist. Is it open-ended? Is it intellectually engaging? Does it reflect kind of really big ideas? Does it raise additional questions? Do the answers require support? We talked about that. And can they recur over time? What is art? Abuse in government. literary devices. Beautiful. So one of the things that I look at first, whenever anybody's working on a template for me, I'm going to go back and show you the template. Whenever anybody's working on a template for me, the very first thing that I do, because y'all listen, I don't know much about German. I can't read German curriculum review if they write it in German. But I do know about essential questions and enduring understandings. So I don't necessarily have to know all of your content to be able to look at what you've identified on that template, your essential questions and your enduring understandings. Then I look at what standards are tied, the title of your unit, and then we go from there. So that's where I begin. If I was going to give you some ideas to walk out of today and start to move forward, I'd get a copy of this template. And I would start to look at those essential questions and enduring understandings and how it could shape and frame the learning for your students. That's just, and that comes later in the slides, but that's where I would be thinking if I were you right now. Let's move on.
Excuse me, Kim, where is a copy of this template?
I will be sending it, Tasha.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll send it. I don't know why I didn't link it in here. Usually I link everything in here, but when you get that, you guys, you have to make your own copy, right? Because I don't want you messing with my template. So a lot of the things that I give you are view only. That's make your own copy, put it right in the same folder where you pulled it from. And then you can start to work in it and go from there. So an enduring understanding is a full sentence generalization. It's what we want students to come to understand about the concept. It's the answer to the essential question, right? It literally answers the essential question. It helps us make sense of a lot of things and kind of putting them in one context of a big idea. Sometimes they're called big ideas, but a big idea can be like freedom, but this is a declarative statement. So enduring state understandings are an actual statement. It answers the essential question. It's almost like the moral of the story. I love when I think about it that way. So they're made up of the things we want to weave together, the things that we want to pull together. They answer the essential question. We can transfer this understanding to a different topic. Sometimes it's not obvious. As we said, you have to build, you have to learn in the unit and make a more sophisticated answer. It's deliberately framed as a generalization, the moral of the story. So you're asking your essential question and you're answering it as the enduring understanding, big and broad. So Luke Verne, I'm thinking about some things that you do in the classes that you teach. So let's just say we were doing coding. So, you know, how can coding help us understand math? Or how does coding help us get the design we're looking for? And so then the answer is coding is the language through which we build in software. That's probably wrong. Dan and Rich, you can correct me, and even Luke, but some of those things, just big, broad questions like, why am I doing a unit on Google? Or why am I doing a unit on Microsoft? Or why do I have to learn this? If you can answer the question, and listen, I used to start this, I don't do it anymore because teachers got mad at me. But the first thing I would say at our first meeting would be like, why does your course exist? Why should we keep your course in the course catalog? Why do kids have to take your course? And they'd be like, well, that's a really good question to be thinking about as you're choosing what I'm going to include and what I'm not going to include, of course, knowing that there are standards. So be thinking about that. Be thinking about, you know, why in the world is this important for kids? Of course it is. Of course we're keeping your courses. That's why they're in review. But if you can get to the heart of why this is so important, how it helps them as they move on to career and college, then you're going to create essential questions and enduring understandings that lead them in that direction. And I think they really will have their curiosity sparked. And that's the other point of this. It's to spark their curiosity. It's to engage them in learning. It's the hook. Okay. So we did some practice. We talked about stage one, know, do, and understand. I dove deeply into essential questions, and we just did some cursory work with enduring understandings. So when we talk about that in stage one, the know, listen, the know is your content and skills, it's your standards. The do, or I'm sorry, the know is the content and the standard. The do is the action, the skill, and the standard, and the understanding comes from our enduring understandings and essential questions. That's how we frame them in there. So if I'm going back to, sorry, my template, and I'll actually put this in your template. I'm going to put essential questions and enduring understandings are about the understand. Content and skills are the know and the do. The standard is the know and the do. And so you can see stage 1 is outlined beautifully. It's the first 4 blocks on your template as you go down. I should say the first 4 rows. Okay, so that's all stage 1. That's understanding by design. Sorry, hold on. So the question becomes, if I were you, I would be asking the question, I don't even like where to start. So I gave you some input on slide 17. There's one more thing I want to get to with you guys. So I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute. I want to find one more piece that I didn't share with you that I want to share with you. So start to be thinking and jotting some ideas about where do I start? What questions do I have? What resources do I need to be able to do this? While I look for one last thing I want to share with you. You can put them in the chat. You can jot them down in front of you. Okay. What questions do you have? Start listing the units, then writing the standard. Yeah, I almost feel like, Stotts, that's a great idea. What I might do is start with the unit, then think about your essential questions and enduring understandings, and then the standard. You can do it the other way, especially with PE. I think that you're definitely safe if you want to do it that way. I just feel like sometimes it helps you focus on what is the real point of this unit before I layer those standards in. One of the things we check for, which you're prompting my thinking here, is we really look for, when we're done writing or we're on our way with outlining the units, have we covered the standards that we need to? So when we look at that unit and we look across the top and we see the course and all of the units, and then we look at the standard column, have we covered everything that we need to in this grade level for this thing? You'll find sometimes that you're covering the same unit over, or the same standard over and over and over and over, and really underutilizing another one. One of the values of BYOC is that becomes glaringly obvious. We hope we get to it before we put it into BYOC. So outlining your units and your essential questions, enduring understandings, then layering in those standards will help you see before you even start working, have I covered everything that I need to? One of the things that I'll be showing you in a second is PDE and where to find your standards. But I think some of us are going to have a conversation about national standards and those standards and these standards. So we'll be doing that in a second. But I wanted to share with you one piece. I'll probably share it again because I think it's really critical to your understanding. One of the reasons I do curriculum is because I'm fascinated with how the brain works, especially the teenage brain. I have a 19 and a 23-year-old, and all of my knowledge didn't help me one iota with them. But I think sometimes in education, if we understand how the brain works and how students learn, we do a better job of planning for that. So we'll look at this when we do assessments, but I'm planting some seeds because I really want you to think about, again, when we think about stage 1, what do we know, do, and understand? I want to talk to you a little bit about how the memory works. So I have a slide up here, but listen to me just for a minute. So if you think about your brain, I'm going to ask you to picture it like a file cabinet. That's a bad example because it's more like a web. It's all interconnected. But for my example, I'd like you to think about a file cabinet in your brain. And when we talk about genuine understanding, it's that we really need the knowledge that kids have in that file cabinet. So listen, learning is the ability to take out the right information at the right time to answer a question or solve a problem. Kids have learned if they can go back in to that brain, that file cabinet, and pull out what's needed at the right time to answer a question or solve a problem. That's what we're working on with kids. Not necessarily just the memorization of facts and things that they should know. They do need to know that. And some of that's stored, and some of that's Googleable. That's my own new word. But when we think about how kids get stuff into that file cabinet in a way that they can pull it out when it's needed to answer a question or solve a problem, it starts with 3 different phases of memory. So first is your sensory memory. Guys, if you're not listening to me right now, if you're not looking at that slide, if you're not understanding it and playing around with it, if I don't have your attention, there's no way it's getting the long-term memory. You know that about kids, right? You know, when you're looking at your classroom and some of them are like, or they do a really good job of looking like they're paying attention, but they're not. If they don't hear it from the beginning, there's not a chance. Well, there's some chance, but less of a chance that it'll be deeply learned, understood, and stored for a long time. The first thing we have to do is capture their attention. The sensory memory, everything that we see, hear, touch, feel, and taste has got to be engaged in what we're learning. If we've got their attention, we've got step 1. Then we want to get it over into short-term memory. Now, short-term memory is a very interesting commodity that continues to change. So let me ask a question. I'll ask you to put your answer in the chat. How many different things do you think we can hold in short-term memory before they slip away and we forget them? How many different things do you think, it's a number, just give me a number, that you think we can hold in our short-term memory before it's too many? And now my short-term memory has no capacity for that. I'm going to look at some of your answers. This is always fun for me. How many things? I see 4 and 3 and 3, 9, 10, 5, 3, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 6. Okay, so here's what's interesting. When I originally taught this to my classes in psychology in Nazareth High School, probably 18 years ago, the answer was 5 to 7. So, and actually more toward the upper end. So 5 to 8. And what they would say is think about some things that you memorize. When you memorize a phone number, it's 3 and 4. So you've taken 7 digits and you've really chunked it down into 2. Think about why kids can remember a nursery rhyme, because they sing it. So it's one song as opposed to 26 letters in the alphabet. Think about how you might have remembered the planets. Anybody remember how you remembered the order of planets? Did you have a mnemonic device for that? Or the scales on a, oh my gosh, a staff, music. I don't even know what that's called. The notes on the staff, that's what I meant to say. Or the Great Lakes. Like, what were some ways, maybe some mnemonic devices, some things that you did to make 7 smaller or 8 smaller so that you could keep more things in your short-term memory? Good teachers do this for kids. Anybody have anything you want to put in the chat? Any of those things that you used to use? Roy G. Biv, exactly, Jill. That's the order of the colors on a rainbow. Oh gosh, I hate order of operations, but yes, Brian, that's correct. Math just skeeves me out. Roy G. Biv, absolutely. So we remembered Roy G. Biv, which is really one thing, for the colors in the rainbow. Now I can tell you every single color in the rainbow. When you think about short-term memory, and this is what's interesting, when I taught this years ago, it was between 5 and 7 on the upper end. The latest research, guys, the attention spans of the youth that we deal with right now, 3 to 4. 3 to 4. And this is why we're looking at each other going, they never remember anything, because their short-term memory, for whatever reason, has not allowed them to remember as many things as a generation ago did. So that's not the end of the world. It just means we have to do a better job of chunking information into smaller chunks for them. One of the best ways to do that is with a graphic organizer. When I used to teach, especially history, like if we were going to talk about 3 or 4 different things, I would make a graphic organizer about how they all connected. It did 2 things for my kids. It helped them understand when Mrs. Bass was going to maybe stop and pause, right? Like when they started to fill in all those different things and it started to look a little bit more done, but it also helped them organize it in their brain. Okay, so there's 5 separate things here instead of a list of 25 notes that I don't really see linearly how that fits together. I'm an extremely visual learner. Raise your hand if you're with me. I'm very, very visual. I'm also very auditory. If I've heard something, I can remember, but just seeing white paper and black text, sometimes it doesn't compute for me. So think about that with your kids as well. How can we chunk? How can we share a mnemonic device? How can we make all the stuff we're trying to tell them a little bit more palatable? How do we make it in smaller chunks so they understand it? And I will tell you that one of the ways to do that, and it doesn't have to sit in short-term memory for long. We have to make sense of it before it gets deposited into the file cabinet now into long-term memory. And there's really 5 things that we can do to assist with that. You see, I made you a mnemonic device. Do you see that cover? You see? So that's one thing you now have to remember instead of 5. So what are some ways we help kids get information transferred into long-term memory so that they can remember it in a timely fashion to solve a problem or answer a question? Well, we make connections. You guys know that. That's been an educational research for a long time. Connected to prior knowledge, connected to something that they're interested in, connected to an essential question or an enduring understanding that you've piqued their curiosity about. So when we make connections for kids, we're more likely to see it stored well and retrieved well. How do we organize it for kids? One of the things that I found very helpful, and listen, I am a not organized person, which you can laugh your head off because people laugh and say, yes, you are. That's how I compensate. My nature is very unorganized, and I've done a lot of things to stay organized, like make my meetings ahead of time, create an agenda template ahead of time, have an email ready to go so that as soon as we're done with this, I can send it out, which I didn't do today, but I will. But how can I used color-coded units. When I taught psychology, I hardly used the book. So my sleep unit was purple, my psych unit was pink, my abnormal psych unit was pink, I still remember, isn't that funny? My biology of psychology unit was blue. The copy people at Nazareth hated me, but it helped students organize their notebook in such a way that they knew what went together. I used graphic organizers every day. Listen, every kid benefits from a graphic organizer. Not everybody needs it, but every child benefits from a graphic organizer. I would hand it out, and sometimes my kids would be like, nope, Mrs. Best, I'm taking my notes. Go ahead, have a ball, write it on white line paper. I don't care, but this is here for you to show you organizationally how this information fits together. Along those lines, it's also visual. Anything that we can do to show kids visually how things fit or to show them visually how things work. And that's why some of you have such an advantage in the classroom, your tech ed, your computer, your FCS, your art, your music. They get to see and feel and experience some of those things. But we can do it in any class simply by showing kids how visually things fit together in an organized way. And then the last piece is elaborative rehearsal. ER goes together. So elaborative rehearsal simply means this: rehearsing it the correct way with timely, specific feedback from the teacher. So my kids took Taekwondo. My oldest is a 2nd degree black belt. My youngest is a Charambo, which is 1 away from a black belt. He just never finished. We'll talk about that later. But one of the things that their master would say every time they were in class is it's not about practice, it's about perfect practice. Because if you practice a move wrong, you're going to do it wrong. How many of you know that's true in sports, right? Like my kids are baseball players and soccer players. And I would say to them when they were in a slump, what are you thinking about? Well, Mom, I'm picturing the last time I struck out. Great. That's rehearsal to strike out again. You need to get the feel of the vision of yourself with the correct stance, with the correct swing, with the correct follow through, with your feet, and your toes pointed the right way. You have to visualize that. How many of you ever watched a skier in the Olympics before they go down on their run? They're visually, it's funny to watch. They're doing this in their brain. They're running through the visual run before they actually do it. Trust me, they're not picturing themselves falling off a cliff. They're picturing themselves doing that run absolutely perfectly. And that's what we need to talk to students about a little bit more. It's what we rehearse, we repeat. So if kids are learning information wrong, we got to know up front. I can't wait till I give the end of the unit test. I got to know up front. So I've got to be doing activities with them where they get some feedback in a very timely manner. So listen, by the time we get to that summative assessment, we know how they're going to do. They know how they're going to do because we interrupted any wrong learning and we help them get on track. So elaborative rehearsal is perfect practice. When you think about athletes, it's about muscle memory. But we can do the same thing with academics. It's about setting those neural pathways because it's more like a web, not a file cabinet. But if we wire it in such a way that kids understand it going in, they have a clear, accurate understanding of information, they're more likely to pull it from long-term memory and use it when they need it. Does that make sense to you? The more we learn about the brain and how kids learn, the better we can design not only instruction, but curriculum. And I share this at this point in time because knowing this will help you with your essential questions and enduring understandings. It really, really will. Thinking about what I really want them to know and take away, and how can I make sure it gets stored in a way that they remember it. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to say in relation to what I just said was that elaborative rehearsal in terms of feedback, and you'll hear this from me again, I'm planting a seed now, we'll talk about it more in our second workshop. But if you look at your whole unit as a circle, okay, you've got your complete unit there. There's a starting point and an ending point. So let's think about that X at the top as the starting point. We know we have things on our template that we're going to write that we want students to know, do, and understand by the time we get back to that top circle, which signifies the beginning and the end of the unit. Listen, if I don't check in on them and see how they're doing until the end, we've lost a lot of time. That's like an autopsy. I always think PSSA and Keystones are like an autopsy. I can't do anything then. Like it's done. It's after the fact. Now I know later how they did. But when you think about your unit of instruction and you think about what can I do to check in on these students, maybe at the quarter mile, maybe at the half mile, maybe at the 3/4 turn, before they take that summative assessment, they're going to be better off. So when we think about these targeted checks, a targeted check means I'm checking on every kid. Sometimes we talk about formative assessments and we should use them and they're fantastic, but sometimes it's a show of hands like I'm doing with you or a whiteboard. Sometimes a check needs to actually physically be something that you're checking with every single kid and you have some kind of tangible something to plan for if they're not getting it. So when we think about elaborative rehearsal and that timely feedback, think about the idea of planting some purposeful checks on their learning. So just like muscle memory, they're not learning it incorrectly. Okay, that was a whole lot. I get really excited. I know it's weird that I love this stuff, but I do. What questions did you have? What thoughts did you jot down? Let me look at the chat and see if there was anything in there. We talked about where you might start, resources. Okay. So where do I start? Wiggins and McTighe, and I'm more thinking about, and Stotts and I talked about this. Do you start with essential questions, enduring understandings? The most important thing is a coherent stage one. Know, do, understand with standards, content, and skills. Those things are the things that we need to do. So that's essential questions, enduring understanding, standards, and content and skills. Okay. You don't have to start with an essential question and then do an enduring understanding. Listen, you can do it the other way. If the point of my unit is to say that writers use symbolism to provide deeper meaning, that's crappy. But if all I can think of is that, then I can formulate a question from it because one answers the other. So if it's writers use symbolism, then my question could be, how do authors create deeper meaning in text? And so the answer could be symbolism. Again, we're tying to author or we're tying to text when we're doing those. So you can do it in any order that you might like to do it. Good question. How much of the existing curriculum do we use? So that's an excellent question, Jill, and a very practical one. So if I were you, one of the first things I would do is pull out my current document. If it doesn't have essential questions and enduring understandings, or hear me, if they're not correct, a lot of times textbooks have in their books essential questions that aren't essential. Nothing drives me crazier because we do all this teaching and we try to help you understand, and then you pull out a textbook and it's not an essential question. It might be a good test question, but it's not an essential question. So Jill, if you want to start with that existing one and take a look at, do you have good essential questions? Do you have good enduring understandings? Does that then reflect the standards? Because guys, listen, when you're listing standards in your document, you could list 12,000. Social studies teachers know this. English teachers know this because there are so many. We don't cover a government standard in isolation. We're covering history with that. We're covering economics with that. My point, and listen, if you've tuned out, tune back in. My pastor always says that. This is important. The standards that you list on your document are the ones you will be assessing. So though you might cover 10,000 standards with a given unit, I wouldn't list them all, because the next thing I do when I check your document is, if you've listed these standards, I'm looking for them in the assessment. So if I'm saying this is the entire point of my unit, essential question, enduring understanding, these are the standards that are driven from that. Yes, there may be more, and you could list them. If you want to list them, go ahead. Secondary standards, tertiary standards, whatever they are. But your key targeted standards are the ones you're going to assess, and that needs to be in your document. So Jill, when you think about that, and you're looking at your existing document, do you need to move things around? I'm going to tell you, when we did first and second grade literacy this year, we moved orders of units because what we know about kids is they weren't ready for this very difficult concept right up front. It fit better here. And so you can move units, you can disregard units, you can totally rewrite units. It depends on the existing state of your documents. Did that help, Jill? It was a really vague answer, I'm sorry. Okay. I just had a great question in the chat and I'm going to pose it to you guys. How many essential questions should you have per unit? Put your thoughts in the chat, please. Love it. You guys are right on. Here's my suggestion to you. 1 to 3. 1 to 3. And here's why. You think about an understandable unit for kids that we're trying to make visual and connect and organize and elaborative rehearsal. It has to be a meaningful, concise unit. If you have 12 essential questions, then they're not essential. What is most essential from this given unit? One sometimes works if you're health or PE, and that's kind of where it rolls. But I would say no more than 3. You can argue that. My goodness, yes, I've seen units with 4 to 5. Absolutely, I've seen that. But a good number, a good rule of thumb to make a unit manageable is anywhere from 2 to 3, because what you're doing then is you're saying these 2 to 3 essential questions drive my 2 to 3 enduring understandings. They match. Do you have 3 EQs? You have 3 EUs. They match. And so if you're saying this is what's most important in this given unit, this is what I want the students to understand when they walk away. If you've got too many of those things, it really will be lost. I don't think you'll get the long-term retention that you're desiring. So don't be held up. Don't be like, okay, good, I have 3, I'm done, or I've got 2, I'm done. Think about the unit and think about what works. My caution to you is too many makes for a large unit, which is difficult for both you and the students. Great answers, great question. Thanks, Dots. I usually say that and I forgot. All right. Are you ready? We practiced. We did practice. So let's talk about what now. So we're going to look at your grade level standards. This link is here and it takes you directly to PDE. PDE SAS is where all of the Pennsylvania standards are. I'm going to tell you that the best place for me, and I'm a curriculum person, the easiest way for me to go and find standards, there's 10 different ways you could view it on this website. I go to download standards. Because, like, if you just come in here and you go to standards, let me see if I can just click on standards. It's like search standards, view standards, vertical viewer. It's like, I don't even know where to start. I go directly to download standards, which is the link that I gave you. If you're an English or a math person, you're looking at PA core standards and they're listed over here. If you are not, you can see ELA. You do have some for science and the technical subjects and history and the social studies, but we're really, if you're ELA or math, you're in the core standards. If you're anybody else, you're looking at PA academic standards. So here's your science and technology. Here's your environment and ecology. Those are all under science. Here's your 4 social studies: civics, economics, geography, and history. Arts and humanities is there. Health, safety, and physical education. So you PE and health folks have that. Family and consumer science, we don't have. World language we have, but not here. Business, computer, and information technology. So I don't know, Rich, Blake, and Dan, if these are the ones you're familiar with or if you use national standards. So let me do a sidebar with them. If you all don't mind, we can work that out.
Kim, we've been looking at ISTE standards in the past as well.
Okay. I think
So,
you and I talked about that.
Yep. So we can have that conversation later.
Okay, perfect. So when you take a look at what's in these, though, you do have some accounting, you have career management, communication, you have CIT, which is computer information technologies, entrepreneurship, finance, global business. So there really isn't any tech ed in here. It's just information technology. So there are some times where we use national standards like ISTE, but for the rest of you, I just want to make sure, are you all comfortable with which standards you'll be looking at? English, we know. Health and PE, I said. Tech ed, we have to talk a little bit more. I think we're covered as I look here. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay. So that slide has, I'd bookmark that. And in fact, Mike Cavello, remember last year when I sent you laminated standards?
Yep, I have them and I think I distributed them to all my teachers.
Awesome. That's what you guys really want to look at. That's going to make curriculum awesome. It's a double-sided laminated standard sheet. Y'all, if you just work from that, you're going to be good to go. So pull that out if you didn't. We can get you some others if you can't find them, but I think that's going to be your best thing. The rest of them, bookmark them on your screen so you have them. So you just go to where you want to go and then PA academic standards. If I'm going to health and PE, oh, that was driver ed. We don't do driver ed here. And then I just put a little star here because it's my favorite. I can either add a bookmark or add to my reading list. So I'm going to add a bookmark and I would have that there. I have too many. I'm not going to do that. Make a copy of your course outline. I did link it in here, Tasha. I thought I did, just not there. So here's your course outline. You'll notice that you guys can just view this, but watch what I'd like you to do. Just pay attention to my screen just for a minute. Oh darn, hold on one second. Hold on, give me 1 second, I'm sorry. I just want to see if I have something linked in here for you. I don't, darn it. Okay, so there is a folder that I'd like you to save these to, and I think I shared the link with you, but I'm going to show it to you right now. So if you go into the drive, hold on, don't go into your drive yet, hold on. I actually have given you permission to this folder before, but I want to give it again. I'll put it in the chat. This is where, oh, let me give it to everybody. Everyone, paste. That is the drive where your specific folder is. So if I go back to that, you can see that in here, I have a folder for English 8 to 12. And then when you open this one, you can see that there's a folder for 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, because we have all of those happening right now. So you would save your outline in that specific folder. You have access to it. You would make a copy and you would save it in this folder. There's also businesses here, computers, Luke, there's you, middle school health, middle school PE, middle school tech ed. And then there's, of course, I don't think I have high school tech ed. I'm sorry, you guys. I'll just change this to be middle school and high school. It makes more sense anyway. So those are your folders where I would like you to share. So I'm going to put that right in here. I apologize. Okay. Make a course of your copy outline. That way this is done and I don't forget. Y'all know I just turned 50, so I have to do these things so I remember everything. Okay. So you'll copy your course outline, you'll place it in the appropriate folder. The other thing I created for you, because I just feel like this is a helpful thing to have. This is a template that Wiggins and McTighe made with Understanding by Design. So this format looks different than what we're looking at. But if you look, you can see everything that we have in here. So the enduring understandings, there is a very specific definition there. We're just going to say it answers the essential question. Should have 1-for-1 with EQs. Essential questions definition is there. Content, skills. So it's set up in a different format, but everything you're looking for, you'll find the definition for. And when we don't use it, like I wrote transfer goal, it's not on our template, it's inferred. Down at the bottom, the learning plan, that's something that we're not going to articulate in our plans. It'll end up in BYOC. Established goals are inferred. So these are not necessarily on our template, but certainly enduring understandings, essential questions, content and skills. We just talked about that. Actually, let me put standards over here. Wow, that's a lot of A's. Just want to capture some of the specific things we said today. So this may help you if you're like, man, I forget what that is. You can go to the slideshow. This is a template that defines everything for you. I thought that might be helpful. So we talked a couple of times about where to go from here. Jill, you kind of added another dynamic. So maybe pull out your current curriculum, right? Bookmark your grade level standards, make a copy of your course outline, put it in the appropriate folder. The template guide is there for you. Start to map out what that outline might look like. So if I'm looking at my existing curriculum, Jill, what I might do, and everyone, is I would list across the top. You can add another column if you have 7 or 8 units. However many units you have, you can delete one if you don't have that many units. So I would literally go through and try to put the names of the units that I do now and take a look at, okay, are those the things that I want to do? Does that make sense? Start to fill in essential questions and enduring understandings, then standards. You'll start to get an idea of, am I overdoing a standard? Am I underdoing a standard? Can I combine some things? Can I cut that out? Because look, there's no standard that it's aligned to. And so from there, I would kind of do that work. That's how I would attack it, but you don't have to do it that way. Whatever seems most attainable for you. So again, I just said, begin working on the order of units, consider the standards, essential questions, enduring understandings, think about content and skills. I will look at your stuff, even if you have one essential question on it. But if you put it in the folder, I don't automatically get an alert. So if there's something you want me to look at, send me an email, send me the link, I'll open it up, I'll reply in the summertime pretty darn quickly unless I'm away. But it's helpful for me to give you lots of feedback along the way. Just as I showed you that circle, beginning and end, you and I don't want to just talk now and then again at the end of the year, because you might be doing things wrong or not the way I would like them, sorry. So you want to be thinking about, I want to send this to Kim for feedback so I can continue to go, And I will do my very best to get that to you quickly because you deserve that. If one of the reasons that you went to this earliest meeting was so you can do some over the summertime before the school year starts and things get nutty, you deserve some feedback from me. I'll meet one-on-one with you this summer. I will do anything that you need to do to support your work, but we just want to stay focused for right now on stage 1. I don't want to get into assessments yet because that's too much. I would map this out and then we'll take the next logical step. So I'm at your beck and call, basically. Anything that you need me to do with you. I would actually ask me instead of Sarah, only because she has a lot of other assignments on her plate right now. And so I'm going to kind of take the bulk of stage 1 and she's going to help with those that are in stage 2 and stage 3. So if you have anything that you want me to look at, please send it to me at any time and I will get back to you. The due date, remember we talked about timelines at the beginning, is I'd like to have this template completed for you. This is how much I'd like to see completed for October. I'd love for you to be here with content and skills because it's pretty logical. So, I mean, this is my desired place for you to be. But if you decide you want to take it a unit at a time, that's okay too. We can manage it that way. So by October, I'm really hoping that you can have all of that completed. What you see highlighted there.
Kim, real quick, for the standards being taught, are we just doing like the number or do we have to put all words in there?
Please write the standard because I won't know it.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Right? Full standard, not number. Thank you. Just the number. That's important. Thanks, Stats. You can also put a loose time frame there. Like one of the things that was really hard for me as a curriculum writer was making my units fit within a school year. So if it helps you to have the pacing on there, that might be good. Okay, then I can fit in another unit and to have that on there. It'll help too if you're going to go the route of creating a pacing guide. So think about that as well. If you want to put the time frame in there, that's the first time I mentioned that. but that would be helpful. Okay. All right. Stop here, workshop 1. Oh, 10:29. I did it in an hour and a half, but I will stay on as long as you want. I will answer questions from the whole group. Anybody that wants to stay on and do a little bit more. The next time that we'll meet is not your due date. It's September 17th. I'll go over a couple of new things. We'll talk large group about how things are going. It's really designed as a check-in. I don't know if we'll meet for a full hour. I think that one is on Zoom because, you know, I'm no dummy. Oh yeah, it's on Zoom. It's a half day in service. So I'm going to meet with you guys at 1, and then whatever time you have after we meet is yours to continue to work on curriculum. So it's designed as a check-in. It's done over Zoom to try to meet you where you're at, knowing that school is just kicking off then and life can get a little crazy. I also have Zooms in February. I was thinking about bad weather. And in April, because that's a busy time as well. The rest of the time, I do think there's benefit in meeting one face-to-face again, because we haven't done that in so long. What questions do you have from me? What can I give you that you need? Nobody can back out. No, I'm just kidding. I will send to you, here's what I'm going to send to you, an email with the curriculum contract linked, who needs it, the list of board approval so you can see the amount of money that you got approved for, and all of the things that we looked at today. I'll link the slideshow and then I'll link the outline. I'll pull them out of the slideshow so you don't have to go through it too. I'll put all those links in there for you. Let me see what this is. Okay. If you have a lot of questions right now, here's my suggestion. I would give yourself a little bit of time to process what we talked about today. I would read through some of these slides, read through some of the information on essential questions, at least pull out your current curriculum, and then we can take a look at, you know, what do you have now and what needs to change? And if you still are like, I'm lost, let's set up a one-on-one. I'll Zoom with you. You don't have to come in. If you'd rather come in, that's great. I'm here all summer, except for when I'm away. But I'm happy to, if you have a lot of questions, please do take some time and try to grasp and you know, answer them on your own, because that'll be important for you to process some of this. And then if you'd like to, send me an email and we can meet one-on-one over Zoom or face-to-face. Okay. All right. It's a beautiful day. If you have no more questions, go enjoy it. I will stay on the line. Whatever you need, just let me know. Thank you guys so very much. Enjoy summer. Contact me anytime.
Thank you, Kim.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Kim, I have a question.
Thanks, Kim.
When everybody's off.
Sure. I think there's a couple people staying on, so go ahead.
Okay, so I'll ask it then. Since Stotts and I are writing curriculum together,
Yep.
Are we creating one document for the two of us?
Yes. Unless, are you breaking up grade levels, John?
I mean, no, I think we'll do all 3 grade levels together.
Yeah, so I would have one document for both of you. That's just a little bit easier. And then since it's a Google Doc, you can both work off of it. So yeah, one is, okay. And however you divide and conquer is the way you'll feel it. Like, I think you should get the whole outline of units done. And then if you want to say, okay, you work on these, I'll work on these, that's totally fine too. And then you can compare your notes. But
okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I had a quick question. Like, I understand, like, you know, what is art? You know, that can go in different ways. Like for us, we could say what is fitness when it's the fitness unit. But a lot of ours are very like black and white, basketball, volleyball, you know, so forth. Like, I'm just thinking in my head, like essential questions. A lot of the time we're going to, like I said, with that basketball one, how participating in basketball help fitness. Like that's going to be a couple of them. Is that okay? Do you know what I'm saying?
It is. I want to just look at the standards just for a second, because I think what might help you is maybe the opposite of what I said. So if I have pulled up right now the academic standards. So if you take a look at all of those standards in there, maybe your focus in the fitness unit is concepts of health and healthful living. Maybe focus in basketball is safety and injury prevention.
Gotcha.
On it in other ones, but if you can tie those specific questions and understandings to these standards, then you'll exactly know, okay, what's the whole point of this? Yes, I'm teaching team building and healthful living also with basketball, but here's
Right.
highlighting safety and injury prevention.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, physical activity, they'd all fit there. There's an awful lot of standards here, right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure they're all covered. And the way to do that is to really highlight some of them in volleyball versus basketball versus pickleball. You still do
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, we just ordered pickleball sets. So
Listen, I've got to be invited. I've got to learn how to play.
I mean, that is the new upcoming thing. I'm telling you, it's crazy. But
I love it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day.
You too.
Deb, are you still on?
I am.
Okay, go ahead. What was your question?
Okay, so for me, I teach the same 5 units in all 3 grade levels currently, but the content within safety would be different for each grade level, or body systems would be different ones. I was contemplating, and this is where my question comes in, of changing it to the 3 sides of the health triangle. So right? So it would be physical health, mental health, social health. The problem is the majority of those health standards fall more into the physical health side of it.
Yeah.
And if currently how I do it, each of the 5 grade, one of those units, safety could take 1 day.
Yeah.
So I'm not truly assessing, I mean.
Yeah. And so then maybe that's
2-day course, you know?
Yeah. It's a how many day course?
22.
22. And that's the thing.
3.
Your units will be small. Here's what I would do, Deb. I would cover all 3. Oh my gosh.
Sides. Yeah, the health triangle sides. Yep.
In every grade level, because we know how important all of those things are. But here's what I would do. Your unit titles may look the same. Your essential questions and your enduring understandings might look the same. Your standards might even look the same. Where yours is going to look different, let me just pull this up real quick, is your content and skills. So Deb, this may all look very similar.
Repetitive. Okay.
This column right here, this content and skills, that's where things are going to change for you. And you might, you know, the complexity of the question might change a little bit when you go from 6th to 8th, but maybe not if they're truly essential. Maybe.
Well, and my standards are different for 6th grade because they're the 4th through 6th grade standards.
Okay.
And then the 7th through 9th are my 7th and 8th grade.
So, I mean, basically what I would say to you is this might look very, very common. 6 might look different. 7 and 8 would look very, very similar here. And then your differences are going to come here in the bottom end.
All right. But do you think it would, like if I did it by the 3 sides of the health triangle, the physical health side is going to be a lot more in depth and more detailed, not more detailed, but there's more information and content in that section versus the mental health part of it. The amount of standards I have for mental health are not a lot.
And that's okay. But I'm just saying I would not want to just do mental health in 7th grade and just do physical in 6th grade and just do the other side. And is that not what you're saying?
No, that's not. Okay. I guess I'm trying to see if I could take my 5 units now and
I see what you're saying.
And have a unit on mental,
that I love.
The problem is that, the standards don't always qualify. Like there's going to be so much in physical health. I don't know if it's going to be, if that would be the best option versus what I do now.
Well, if you want to map it out and then we can get on the phone, Deb, and kind of talk through it. That would really you'd have somebody to talk through it with. So kind of and then you and I because I love that. That would be awesome for me.
Okay. And then I'm sorry guys. One last question was like when you're looking at the phys ed standards, it was 10.16 or whatever, and then underneath it is an A, B, C, D, E. Are we mandated to cover every single bit of that?
So yes, in terms of alcohol, tobacco, and chemical substance, that is absolutely mandated.
Right.
All 3 grades, Deb, yes. So across all of middle school health, you should cover all of those.
Because the last time we did my current curriculum, we met K-12.
Yeah.
And I knew what the elementary was doing and I knew what the high school was doing. Yeah. Plus, some of mine, there's like environmental stuff in some of the aspects of safety and whatnot. And we knew that science was covering those. So I didn't we cross things off. I don't know what they're all doing.
Well, what I would say to you is, as you look at this, you go down the grade 6 line here, right? So you're going to kind of be between 6 and so I would say you need to have it addressed 6 to 12 because that's the expectation. We can't turf it off.
So
it's done in other
ways. My 6th graders are all the 10.26 and my 7th and 8th graders are all the 10 point. 1-9. Well, I do
Okay.
ninth grade is all my 7th and 8th.
Okay, that's perfect. But I would say to you that, yes, I would like to see this covered all in middle school. We're not turfing anything off. If it's covered again, that's great. So
Okay.
what'll happen, Deb, is when you and I sit and jockey, we'll try to make
Great.
sure we have all the standards in there somewhere.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, absolutely. Have a good day.
Have a
Thank
good time. Bye, guys.
Bye. I'll be as quick as I can. So for the business standards, there's 9 standards. I should
Yeah.
have a unit for each standard.
Well, I think you and I should probably touch base because I have some, you are in a very unique position, Luke, because you've got business who needs you to do some stuff. You've got tech ed who needs you to do some stuff. So I feel like, when we look at this too, I do know what Flight is doing, and I do know what the high school is planning to do. And I know that Tom and Matt gave you some things like here's what I would like to, so that may not, it should fit. And then I know what business needs you to do, which is basically make sure you're attending to Microsoft Word in a unit. So our kids should get exposure to Microsoft before they get to the high school.
Okay.
So it's what Flight said, it's those business things, and then wherever you and Rich drew the line for tech ed as business. So
okay.
You're in an interesting position. What I'd love you to do, Luke, for me is try to map out what you think would work. I'll do my homework to make sure I remember what everybody said I need Luke to do. Poor Luke.
I know.
So you kind of map that out, and
piece of taffy.
We can do what Deb and I just talked about, and make sure we've got the units right. And then I can help you if you need to. We can do a whole unit on essential questions and enduring understandings. We can break it down that way.
Okay. All right.
That
So
sound good?
and then real quick for course description, because I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, do I do 3 documents, 1 for each grade?
Yes, I need 1 for each grade.
Okay. All right.
And like I just said to Deb, some of that may look the same, Luke.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. That helps. Yeah.
But where we would differ is the content and the skills.
Right. Because Chris has bought, she's already going to buy me a lot of toys.
Yeah, I know.
And it's just a lot to sort out. We're kind of doing it backwards, but you got to spend the money when you have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's where, so I'm gonna, so I guess the other question is, how much am I thinking of what I was doing versus what I'm going to do? That's where
I would be
what am
thinking about what you're going to do.
What I'm going to do. All right.
Yeah, I would
All
the stuff that Chris bought, the stuff that Rich and you talked about, Tom and Matt,
Right.
and then the business, the Microsoft that I just shared with you.
Okay.
Just make sure that what you can do when we set our time to talk, Luke, and we can do that before we hang up. You can say, here's what I used to do, and here's what I think I'm going to do, and then we compare them and almost move things around on a whiteboard, and because you can't do anything until that's settled. And I want to make
and honestly, I don't really have a curriculum. I don't really. There's really nothing.
Written.
Yeah, it's just kind of winging it.
It's just what you do.
So sort of, kind of. What was I think it's one side of the younger people are in the workforce are really into Google Docs, and the older folks are into Microsoft. It's transitioning away.
Absolutely.
Because it's overkill what Microsoft has, the bells and whistles.
Well,
but it is a security thing, is why Microsoft is still here and Google's down here.
And our kids have been using Google Classroom K-8. So there's not a lot more you're going to be able to show them with Google. I mean, you can do them some of the higher functioning in Sheets. And then what I would do is show them what that looks like in Excel. My just started a job. He's 23. He graduated from DeSales in last May. And he started a job at Price Waterhouse, Luke. And his experience, had he worked in an Excel document, he had only been in Sheets. At such a loss as to even how it worked, even though there's a lot of similarities. But what we can do, I think, to best prepare our students is to say, yes, Google is an option. here's how Microsoft, the parallel, the older version works, and kind of show them some functionality. Because when they get to the high school, they have a whole option for a course on Excel if they want it. So they need
Right.
to dabble in it with you before they get there.
Okay.
So I agree with you. I just feel like it's really important for us to have
Yeah.
exposure for them.
Right. And we're pretty much sticking to marking periods.
Yes, you have
Okay.
marking periods, not
Okay.
trying. Yep.
Okay, because I thought Chris said in a meeting long ago that we may go to semesters, but we're still, that's not.
Yeah, you're both. You're 4 marking periods, 2 semesters, but I think you guys are still doing a marking period rotation. So Deb said 22 classes. I think that's right.
Yeah. But like she almost said, like we may move it to 40 or 45, like double, like keep the same kids for 2
Yeah.
marking.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine. I just helps.
Yeah, we need them to have more choice. I don't.
Yeah.
that
Okay.
to happen, so,
Well, I'm sorry. There was one more question. What was it?
Okay, sure.
Oh, like, do I take, and I don't have to stick to this. Like, do I take like, let's say my micro bits, those little computers, and do I just do it in 6th grade? Or do I do it in 6th, 7th, and 8th and make it
Well,
more and more
that's what we'll have
complex?
to talk about. That's what we'll
Okay.
have to talk about. Depending on the toys she bought you,
Yeah.
we're going to do coding in 6, 7, and 8. But what does that look like? It might be Ozabots in 1 grade, and it might be I can't.
Yeah,
even,
I know what you mean. Yeah, microbits. Yeah.
Yeah.
In another grade. Okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
I think they're doing Ozabots in the flight. So I have to wrap my head around that again, Luke. 'Cause
Yeah.
I looked at it. So by the time that you and I meet, and we can look now if you want to do that.
Sure.
You'll have your idea of what you think is what you're supposed to do, and then I can weigh it against what everybody else told me, and then you and I just get to decide, right? Like here's where we're going. And,
Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind running it past them so there's no gaps and holes. Yeah.
And I'm joking.
Oh, you're joking. Okay.
Chris,
Good.
Chris had, and I had a conversation ahead of time. Dan Moyer and I did, Monica Griffith. So I have to kind of wrap my head around all that. Then we'll give them this and we'll push it back out to say, is this what we all hoped it would be?
Right.
You're the only one who has to function in that realm, but
Yeah.
sorry.
That's all right. I know I use Facebook a lot. I have a school Facebook account, and I'm in tons of groups.
Yeah.
And I just ask them questions because I'm the only one who does what I do. Like I can't. It's because it's kind of lonely. But it's kind of nice. Like it's kind of nice you don't butt heads with anyone, but still you'd like that.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody.
No kidding. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I don't know how soon you want to do this, next week, the week after, if you tell me a week, I can look for a day.
All right, let me get you. So, and you want me to have it kind of mapped out vaguely. Okay. Let's see. Like next Friday, the 2nd?
I don't work on Fridays in the summer. I'd
That's
love
all right.
to say I would, but I.
Yeah, that's okay. How about the 5th or 6th of July?
How about the 6th?
Okay.
I can do 8. I can do 11. I can do 3.
Sorry, it's my dog.
That's okay.
I guess 8 o'clock would probably
Okay.
be good. Yeah.
All right.
If that's okay.
All right, so I'll send you a meeting right now.
Okay, great.
I'll send you a Zoom link and a meeting request and
All right.
get back on and we'll figure it out.
All right. So I'll have like a tentative kind of plan of what to do and all in the course outlines. Have 3 course outlines.
Yes.
Okay.
Even if you just do one, we can build from there, but yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at the gadgets, each gadget as its own textbook, and what am I going to do with that textbook kind of thing?
So talk through that a little bit more with me. What do you mean?
Like microbits is a hardware. So that's like, what kind of coding requirements am I going to have for each grade to work on that micro?
Okay, I got you.
So then like I ordered wearable technology. not
Nice.
not real familiar with it. But it's the same company who makes the drones. So the wearable will be like more data analysis. They literally they put it on
Yeah.
and they move and it collects data, and then
Oh, wow.
we gotta analyze it.
I love that.
Yeah, and then the drone is coding, but I'm thinking obstacle course droning, like they have to move it up and move it down and then go
Yeah.
through like each one is its own separate textbook is what I mean. You're gonna learn something different from each one. And then the tablets I'm getting from Tom, they're gonna make apps from it. So I have to, learn how to do that. So it's that's where my units. That's where I'm
Okay,
thinking for
I
the
love
unit.
that. So talk to me about what is the point? So that's your coding unit for 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, the one
is more data now.
yeah, the one is
Okay.
probably more data.
So what I would say to you is, as you start to think about all this, like, what's the point? What do I want kids to do?
Right.
Why am I having the kids do this? That's going to drive out what you do with it and help
Okay.
find the standard, as well as the essential question and the enduring understanding.
All right.
Not
Okay.
just because the boys told me to, but what? Why am I doing this unit with these kids? What are they supposed to get out of it? That it's going to be fun. When you and I sit down and look at this, Luke, I think we're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Work it out nicely. Okay.
Great. Okay.
I'm going to send you that Zoom link
Thank
in
you.
a minute with the invite.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, Luke.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for your help. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Bye.